Quite obviously, this attack was not planned overnight. Uh, there would have been months of planning behind the attack. Maybe the timing was that today was, one of those Jewish holidays. Somebody was partying, somebody was just celebrating, somebody was just, taking it easy. Their guard was down. And this is like Yom Kippur 2.0. And maybe they expected something like this. Maybe the date of the attack would have been decided a long time back. What is surprising is that the Israelis had no inkling that such a massive attack is going to take place. And then there's been a complete systemic failure. All their border defenses failed. Their units along the borders were caught napping. They had no idea what has hit them. And they've been just swept aside. Now, there are some people who believe that this could be timed in the sense the planning could have been keeping in mind the fact that there has been growing evidence that maybe Israel and Saudi Arabia are also going to restore relations. And there was also growing pressure on some other countries in the Islamic world to recognize Israel and have full diplomatic relations with them as part of the Abrahamic Accords. Now, maybe that could have been one of the things. Maybe Iran, because Hamas is, after all, sponsored by Iran, as is Hezbollah. Maybe, the Iranians were opening a new front, perhaps to clear the pitch for the Arabs. So there could have been multiple reasons, and we don't as yet know what exactly was the plan of action. But the fact remains that this has been a spectacular attack. It's been very, very well planned. The surprise is complete and total. It's early days yet. I think at one level, the Arab states which have opened up relations with Israel or were warming up to Israel would probably be looking at the Arab street. How is the Arab street reacting? And that would kind of queer their pitch in the sense that do they go against the Arab street and say that, okay, fine, this has been a deliberate attempt to sabotage relations? Or do they say, okay, fine, while we have relations with Israel, but we'll walk that tightrope. We're not going to condemn. We're not going to break off our relations. We'll be in a wait and watch mode, and we'll see how things unfold from here. And then we will have to see whether this is just, a Hamas attack coming in from Gaza, or it is the beginning of a wider war. Will Hezbollah jump in? Will there be some kind of attacks being launched from Syria's side? Because we know for a fact that, the Hezbollah has been expanding its presence in Syria a hell of a lot. And there have been Israeli military advisors and all kinds of things happening, even in Syria. And in the Middle East, it's often said that there can be no war without Egypt, and there can be no peace without Syria. And clearly, this is a situation somewhere between an all-out war, and we don't know whether this will be a limited war, limited only to some parts of the West Bank, or it will expand, because the situation even on the West Bank side seems to not be very good. And the Palestinian Authority is, according to some reports, virtually declaring war on Israel, because in the West Bank there have been jubilation at the scenes of massacre of Israelis, and I don't think that's going to go down very well with Israel, clearly. The question is, how much strength does Israel actually wield? Because even 6 hours later, or maybe even more, we haven't really seen the Israelis, start pushing back. But the important thing is that we'll have to wait and see, is this going to be limited to Hamas and Gaza? Does it expand to the West Bank? Israelis carry out operations out there. What do they do with Gaza? What do they do in the West Bank with the Palestinian Authority? Do they simply crush it in both these territories? What happens on the border with Lebanon, where the Hezbollah is present? Do they open up? Do the Hezbollah open up a new front out there? Does Iran jump in? Because a few days back, there was a warning issued from the Israeli side, a couple of weeks back, in fact, that if the if the Iranians were to do something, then there would be major attacks which would take place against Iranian leadership. And if that happens, then you are into an escalation spiral of a very serious nature. And if that happens, then do the Arab states continue to sit on the fence, or they jump into the fray? And which of them? The entire post-Second World War structure that was built is unraveling. Massive changes are taking place around the world, and the whole world is in a flux. The West is no longer what it used to be. It's no longer the arbiter of things, and it's out of control, right? They are discussing pronouns and gender when everything around them is crumbling. So it tells you a lot about their priorities and where they are at. So for India, yeah, the situation is going to be extremely complex. We have two hostile neighbors in Pakistan and China. We have one hostile neighbor which might actually be unraveling. It might take a couple of months, maybe a year or two, but that trajectory is quite negative. And we might have
in the southern part of India, or is it in the north?
On the western side of India. On the western side of India. But the problem is going to be that it destabilizes us also. And then on the northern side, we have yet another neighbor which is needlessly hostile, belligerent, and is a world power, whether we like it or not. And they are like a bull in a china shop. And quite clearly, they are disturbing the regional stability and equilibrium in ways which have been, quite clear for the last 20-25 years, but everybody has been sleepwalking into disaster. So it's not a very happy situation, and nobody is ready to step back. Nobody is ready to talk things out. Diplomacy has virtually collapsed. And it will all depend upon the will of nations to survive, their resources, how much they can protect themselves, how well they can defend themselves, how far they are willing to go to defend themselves. So, yeah, I think it's a very, very dangerous world in which we are living now. And it is becoming more and more dangerous because there is no world leadership. There is no statesmanship anymore.